Hi, I'm Dan Bennett. This is my paper with Elisa Meckler, Beyond Intrinsic Motivation, the role of autonomous motivation in user experience. Human motivation and autonomy are key concepts in HCI. In prior UX research, however, they have been addressed in a somewhat limited manner, neglecting aspects of motivation that are important for understanding meaningful and meaningless interactions. We show how an expanded view of motivation offers important resources for understanding and designing user experience. In HCI and UX research, accounts of motivation have focused almost exclusively on intrinsic motivation, moment-to-moment enjoyment and interest in the activity itself. Such work has drawn on the motivational psychology framework self-determination theory, or SDT for short. Here, intrinsic motivation is described as inherently autonomous, positively experienced, and driven by behaviours that satisfy basic psychological needs, all positive qualities for UX design. However, this is only part of SDT's account of motivation. After childhood, fewer of our activities are intrinsically motivated, and we increasingly rely on extrinsic motivations. Where intrinsic motivation concerns the immediate moment-to-moment experience, extrinsic motivations derive from the activity's expected outcomes, or else from how we internalise the activity over time, reflectively connecting it to our identity, values, and goals. Since extrinsic motivation is central to adult life and often grounded in personal meaning, we suggest that neglecting it leaves a significant gap in our understanding of user experience. In this work, we set out to address that. We conducted a survey study with 521 participants, focusing on experiences with a single technology they used regularly. Half reported on technologies they felt good about, and half about technologies they did not. To connect our results to prior work in UX, we captured standard measures of UX, including positive affect, usability, and the satisfaction of psychological needs. We also asked users to describe what the technology meant to them, and what kept them using the technology over time. We departed from prior UX research by also measuring the range of motivational regulations described by SDT, using the User Motivation Inventory. Based on this, we identified motivational profiles, patterns of overall motivation shared by groups of participants. The User Motivation Inventory measures the 6 forms of motivational regulation described by SDT: intrinsic motivation, amotivation, and 4 forms of extrinsic motivation, distinguished by the manner and degree to which they are internalised or integrated with the self. The least internalised form of extrinsic motivation is external regulation. This concerns seeking rewards and avoiding negative outcomes. For example, I may use a technology purely to earn money or to avoid criticism. Next comes introjection, where rewards and punishments are weakly internalised via shame or conditional self-regard. For example, I may use a fitness tracking app due to my negative body image, or I may connect my self-worth to likes on social media. Next comes identified regulation. Now I identify the value of the activity's outcomes relative to my values and goals. For example, I may use a fitness app because keeping fit helps me to focus on the work that matters to me. Finally comes integrated regulation. Now the activity is tightly integrated with myself and coherent with my values and goals. In this case, I may use fitness apps because athletics is a personal passion, and exercise is a key part of my daily routine. These more internalised forms of extrinsic motivation are expected to be as highly autonomous as intrinsic motivation, and to support positive experience and sustained engagement. Finally, SDT describes amotivation, where activities are not internalised at all. Engagement lacks purpose, intentionality, and investment, while the experience is unsatisfying. Prior research indicates that a person will combine multiple forms of motivation for any given activity. It is the overall profile of motivation, across these 6 constructs, that influences how the activity is experienced, how sustainable it is, and its influence on psychological well-being. To identify these motivational profiles, we used latent profile analysis, a person-centered machine learning approach which identifies groups of users with similar characteristics. We then compared user experience measures between users in each profile. Finally, we analysed users' descriptions of what the technology meant to them using inductive content analysis. This allowed us to identify themes in how users related to their chosen technologies, and to compare the presence of these themes across the different motivational profiles. Our latent profile analysis identified 5 motivational profiles, each capturing experiences across a range of different technology types. These profiles were associated with significant differences across all UX measures, and qualitative differences in how users related to their technologies. For this talk, I summarise results for just 3 of these profiles. First, we identified a high-quality profile, characterised by autonomous forms of extrinsic motivation, identified and integrated regulation. When describing what the technology meant to them, these users commonly invoked hobbies, passions and vocations, or connected the technology to their personal identities, using phrases like "as a mum" and "as a gamer." They reported the highest scores for need satisfaction and positive affect. We named the second profile external, due to the prominence of external regulation, motivation related to reward and punishment. These users often reported that their use of the chosen technology was largely due to social or work commitments. Many users connected these technologies to personal insecurities and social pressure. One user wrote, "Despite feeling like the app is harmful to my mental health, I feel like it might be helpful. I might land a dream job. It's also to torture myself and compare myself to others. It gives me something to work towards." Overall, users in this group reported far lower need satisfaction, but satisfaction of needs for relatedness, security and popularity were relatively high. The final profile was characterised by what we call hedonic amotivation, a combination of high amotivation, indicating a lack of intentionality, and relatively high intrinsic motivation, indicating enjoyment in the moment of engagement. These users often felt the technology was meaningless and bad for them. They commonly described habitual and even compulsive engagement, which they regretted and struggled to control. They reported the lowest levels of need satisfaction and low levels of positive affect. Only their scores for pleasure satisfaction were relatively high. In summary, our results make clear that motivational profiles offer a valuable lens for understanding meaningful, autonomous user experience. They offer a way to address motivation holistically and to look beyond motivations in the immediate interaction. They distinguish positive, healthy, and personally satisfying relationships with technologies, both from those characterised by personal insecurities and psychological pressure, and from those that feel compulsively engaging yet empty. These different profiles are associated with significant and often large differences across a range of measures considered important in prior UX research. The hedonic amotivation profile challenges assumptions about intrinsic motivation. SDT considers intrinsic motivation incompatible with amotivation and expects it to be associated with healthy and sustainable interaction grounded in need satisfaction. Future work should seek to understand the conditions under which intrinsic motivation can contribute to less positive outcomes. In other work published at this conference, we begin to address this in the case of social media use. Finally, we draw on our results to articulate a new agenda for positive UX design, grounded in the user's motivational profile. We argue for an approach to design grounded in support for autonomous motivation, helping users reflectively connect the technology to their values and goals. In future, we see the potential for technologies to adapt to users' motivational needs based on their current motivational profile. We articulate a number of challenges on the road to such approaches. Future design should clarify the design factors which support internalisation, understand the timescales and trajectories of internalisation, and identify behavioural and linguistic markers of motivational profile to drive interface adaptation. Thank you for listening. This brief talk covers only a portion of a very rich set of findings. For further details, see our 2 papers at this conference. We look forward to hearing your feedback and questions.